Hello everyone, hope you're all doing great. This video is about Next.js 14 and using this I will be building a small notes application. Although this is a small application, but this is a full stack application that includes front end, back end and database. So for that I'm going to be using Drizzle ORM for creating database models and creating schemas. I will be using Neon database for storing my data inside the database. I will be using Clerk Authentication for building authentication like sign in, sign up. So this app looks smaller, but it covers pretty much every topic for you to understand how you can build a complete full stack large applications. So I will be talking about how all of these four technologies work together, linked together, and how these communicate with each other. So let me give you a quick demo of the application. This is the Navbar where we can see sign in, sign up button, and this is the login form. And it has this route / sign in, which is provided by Clerk Authentication. I can click on the sign up, sign in, and I can navigate to the home page. But since I'm not logged in, this home page is protected because home page is where I will be showing all the notes belonging to a particular user which is logged in. Okay, so let me sign in with my email ID. Click on sign in and I can click on the continue. So this email ID is not registered, so I'm going to go with the continue with Google. Now you can see that I'm logged in and these are the notes which I already created for this particular user. Means that these notes are only belonging to this user. If any other user try to log in, they will not be able to see these notes. So these notes are protected and only this user is able to see these notes. And if I go to this profile icon, I can see that here I can manage the account, I can change the profile image, I can change the username, I can add a new email ID, I can go to the security and change these informations over here. And here I have this sign out button over here, as well as I have this sign out button over here as well. So again guys, this app looks smaller, but it covers all the concepts for you guys to build a full stack applications using Next.js 14. How to manage database, how to create Drizzle ORM, creating schemas, modeling, how to link all of these technologies together, how they communicate with each other. So let's get started with creating a new Next.js 14 project. I've opened up VS Code with an empty folder inside it. So in the terminal, I can simply write this command npx create next app at latest space dot. Dot will not create a new folder. It will create the files and folder of Next.js project with the same folder which I've opened in VS Code currently. So I'll hit enter. It's going to ask me a few questions, like I'm gonna go with the TypeScript, ESLint, Tailwind CSS, yes, no for source directory, app router, no for import alias. So it's gonna take some time. Meanwhile, it's getting created. Let me show you that I've created almost 49 video and this tutorial is my 50th video on Next.js using app directory. And if you want to understand and learn more topics on this technology, you can go through this playlist. I've given the link of this playlist in the description of this video. I have completed and covered up pretty much every topic on Next.js that can help you to become a good Next.js developer. So there are two playlists. One is Next.js 13 that also contains the videos on Next.js 14 because both uses app router structure, and this is the playlist for Next.js 14 specifically covering up pretty much every topic. So you can see I'm putting a lot of effort building these videos for you guys, so do subscribe my channel. And also if you want any kind of development services from me, you can contact me on LinkedIn. I've given the link of it in the description of this video. So our Next.js 14 project is created. Let me clear this out and let me try to run the project so that we can verify everything is working fine. So it's running on localhost 3000, and let's go over here and let's try to open up localhost 3000 and it should show up the default UI. Awesome. So now first of all, I'm gonna go into the app directory. I'm gonna go into the page.tsx, and here I'm simply going to remove everything within this main. So let's remove that. All right. And also from here, I'm also going to remove this thing and also the padding. All right. And inside the main, I'll be creating a new component for my to-do app. So this is going to be a single page to-do application with the functionalities of add, deletion, edit, and also checkbox for completion to do. All right, as I've already shown you how it looks like. Now let's go over here, and I'm going to first of all configure Drizzle ORM in my project. So I'm going to go and click on the learn, and I'm going to go and click on the tutorials and the to do app. So I'm going to follow this document, although this document contains the code which have some minor issues, and I'm going to expanding this implementation which is showing in this article to add the users, add the relational model, and add the queries for those users for this to do application. And also I will be attaching this particular to do app with the Clerk for user authentication as well. So this is going to be a kickstart guide for this to do app to add the Drizzle in our project. So first of all, we need to install these two packages. So I'm first going to install the first one, which is neon database / serverless. Let's stop this and paste this in the terminal and hit enter. And also let's copy the second one as well. So there seems some versioning issues, so I'm going to go up. So either I can change the versions which I have. So let me check what are the versions. So I'm using 20. What I can do is I simply can copy this one, legacy peer depths, and let's go up, and I can paste that after this command, and I will hit enter, and it is going to install this particular package correctly. You can see that it has been installed. Now let's install this one, and also at the end also add the same flag that we have added above. So legacy peer depths, hit enter, and this package is also going to be installed in package.json. You can see here it is installed, and also the Drizzle kit should also be adding over here. Okay, so it is still getting installed. All right, so after that we need to create the db folder, and inside it we need to create /drizzle.ts. Okay, so come here, and I'm going to create db, and inside it I need to create drizzle.ts. So let's go over here and let's copy the code inside, and I'm going to paste that. And currently it will not work because I need to add this in my env file. Okay, so now let's go to the next line. We need to create drizzle.config.ts file. So let's go over here, this file, and inside it we can copy this configuration, and it is taking up this driver, then db credentials, and again this is something that I yet need to create. So it is throwing some kind of error. Let's leave it for later and see if it throws any error when we run our project. Okay, what's next? Let's go over here, and inside the db we can create the schema.ts file. So this is the initial kickstart schema for the to do only, which I will be modifying later when I will be adding users model over here, and also I'll create a relationship between this to do and the users model. Okay, so inside this I can create schema.ts, and let's copy and let's paste that over here, and there is no error, which is good. Let's see what we have here. So it is showing that we need to just run this particular command, but I'm not gonna do that. Let me tell you that first of all I'm going to add the neon URL in my env file. So let's create that .env, and inside it we need to add this particular variable equals to, and we need to go into the neon console. You need to sign up with your account in neon dashboard, and initially it will show nothing. If you are first time using it, you need to create organization, and inside the organization you need to create a new project. So I'm gonna go with first of all, it is showing that I can only have one project in the free version, so I don't need that. I just created that for learning purpose, so I'm simply going to delete this. So click on delete this, delete one, and now I'll be able to create a new project. So project name, let's create nodes next 14 and then Drizzle. Okay, and I can create my db, you can name anything, and give the nearest server region over here. So I can go with let's go with Asia specific Singapore and create project. Okay, so it has created the project, and now below it is showing all of these options I can go with. So let's go over here. So I can simply copy this URL as it is. And before copying this, I need to just make it visible. Otherwise there are statics over here. So now let's copy this URL and I'm going to paste this over here. Okay, so this has been added. Make sure you save this file and make sure you close this file. We have the schema, we have the Drizzle config, and we have this particular configuration. And for the UI purpose, we have to create the to-dos components like it is showing over here. We need to create this particular architecture, but for uploading our schema in the Neon database for creating the models in the tables, like over here, we can go to the database or the tables. It is showing nothing. To upload that, we don't need to create the to-do components. We can create that later on. So, but I'm not going to run this command at the moment. This one, which it is showing here, Drizzle get push. Instead, first of all, I'm going to generate its migration, and in order to generate that, I need to copy this particular command. Let me paste that, and first of all I can simply replace push with generate. Okay, I will hit enter. Okay, this generate, so there seems, and this command is deprecate, please use generate. Have I made any mistake? Alright guys, so couple of days ago I was using this particular tool with the different version and it got updated in just couple of days. So make sure you are using the same version which I have installed over here for the serverless, for the Drizzle kit and the Drizzle ORM which I have. This is the updated versions which I have installed in this project. Now let's come over here. I've resolved these errors. What you need to do is you need to add this dialect with the Postgres SQL. This is what we are using because we are using Neon database and we have given the path of our schema.ts file, and then out is going to be /drizzle. This is the folder which will be generated after we run the generate command. Okay, and now this particular thing needs to be added, which was already added over here. Now in the terminal, what we need to do is we need to run this command. Don't add :pg after that. Okay, it will be auto detected. All right, so npx drizzle get generate, and I will hit enter, and now you will see that it will not throw any kind of error, and it's going to generate this drizzle folder, and inside it you can see that it has generated this query: create table if not exist, to do id text done, and it is referring to this particular schema. If you have written some queries in SQL directly, you must be familiar with that. So this is what it has generated, which we don't need to make changes inside it. Now this has been added. Now let's go into the Neon console, and if I go to the table, and it will still not show that to do table. What we need to do is in the terminal we need to run the push command. So npx drizzle get push, so it is going to detect what is the URL of our DB from here. And now if I refresh this page, you will see that there will be a to do table will be created over here. All right, and the same particular properties and attributes are added with the same data types which we have added over here. Awesome. So let's come back to this article now. So by the way, this particular configuration is not working as I've shown you. You need to update accordingly what I have shown over here. All right, so let's come down, and it is asking us to create all of these server actions. I hope that you have an understanding about server actions. If not, then you can watch my video on this particular topic specifically on my channel. I've created that server actions in Next.js 14. So before actually creating all of these server actions, I'm gonna come down and I need to create this particular structure. Actually, let's click on this full stack. Okay, so now actions and to do actions.ts, let's create that. First of all, I need to create actions, and inside it I will be creating a new file to do actions. Let's leave it for now. Drizzle is already created, app directory is already created, and then components, and within the components we need to create these three files. Okay, so let's go over here. I'm gonna create components. This one, add todo.tsx, add todo.tsx, this one, and then todos. Okay, so let's create these two files, todo.tsx and todos.tsx. All right, so now let's go up, actually this one as well, types. So let's create this folder, types, and inside it we need to create todo type.ts. So todo type.ts. All right, so let's go up and let's try to find out. So these are the different server actions, and this is the type that we need to add in todo type. Let's save this file and close it. And now let's go down, and then we need to load up these to-dos and get the data. Okay, but before that I'm going to be putting up these three files code from this. So first one is the todos.tsx. So let's copy this whole code and put it inside todos.tsx. Okay, this one. And currently this code does not exist, so let's go into the todo.tsx. Let's copy this and paste it over here, and let's go into the add to do. Let's copy this and paste it over here. I'm going to explain you what these files contain, and still there is one error because we need to add the server actions. So by the way, we can go over here and we need to click on it separately. Instead, I'm going to come down and I'm going to copy this whole file. This file contains every server action that was shown above. Okay, and I'm going to explain you what it is doing, how it is querying the data from the database. So let's go, and over here I have pasted that. Okay, so it is giving some error, and at the start of video I told you that this article contains few errors which I'm going to resolve. So let's close all of these files. So let me run the project first of all. So in the terminal I'm going to simply run npm run dev. Okay, so let's try to see how it is looking like. I have refreshed localhost colon 3000, and it is not showing anything, because let's go into the page and it contains nothing. We need to actually show all the to-dos. So here we can fetch all the to-dos from the components to do, and let's try to see what it shows. It is giving the error because we need to pass the data. What we can do is, in our article it is saying to use this, which is from server actions. So I'm gonna add this, and I'm going to add async because we are using await, and also we can import it from the to-dos action which we have created, and now we can pass to-dos as the data, so like this. Okay, so let's save it and let's go into this, and now you can see that it is showing this particular UI which is looking great. But first of all I'm going to go into the global.css and I'm going to remove everything because it's not looking good in the dark mode, and this is looking good. Now if I try to enter abcd add, and you can see that it has created on the UI, but it is showing some error that there has to be an ID should be passed in order to store it in the database. If I go into the console and refresh, and let's click on this to do, you will see that it is not showing any record over here, even though it is showing some data over here. This is just on the front end. Okay, so let's go into the to-dos, and here you can see that it is actually passing this text. But if we see the server action, it is actually receiving only text, but from here we are also passing the ID. So what we can do is we can receive this ID in our to do action as well. So here I can actually receive it like ID number, and this values, because this is belonging to that type, so inside it I can simply pass the ID. Now you can see that the error is gone, and error is gone from here as well. Okay, so this one is showing the error as well, the toggle to do. So let's see what is the error. This is the function toggle to do, and it is receiving ID and done, but this one is only passing the ID. So now I can actually figure this out, and I can pass the done from here as well, and I can receive this done property as a param from here, and let's verify where this is being called. So this is where it is being called inside the to do. So let's go inside the to do. Let's save this file first of all, and here this is where it is being used, and this is where it is being received, and let's see where it is getting called, and this is where it is getting passed. So now let's try and refresh this page and first to do, and let's see if it gets added in the DB. So there is no error currently over here. All right, and there is no error over here as well. Let's try to go to the console and let's refresh and see if that to do is added in the DB or not. So click on that. All right guys, this is looking great. We have our first to do stored in the database. It has the ID, it has the text, and it has this F stands for false for the done. That's why it is written this over here. So if I click on it, it has been changed over here, but I want this to be updated in the DB as well. So here in the console, let's refresh and click here, and now it has been changed to T, means that this to do is selected. Let's try to delete this, and let's try to refresh, and this to do should be deleted. So this is how it is working. And now let's try to discuss what is happening here. First of all, let's go into the to dos which is being added in our page.tsx. This is simple. So this is where the data is being fetched from those to do actions. So get data is the function inside it, and it is using the db from the @/db/drizzle, and using this db we can query any kind of data from the database. We can get the data, we can update the data, delete, edit, and whatever the functionality we want to perform. So db.select from to do, so it is going to select all the to dos from the table which has named to do. So in the schema, this is the name which we are using over here, pg table. Okay, and this is what we have written. And now from this function, after fetching the data from db, it is going to return the data wherever it is being passed, this get data. And now in the page we are passing this data inside the to dos component, and to dos component is receiving this data over here, and it is storing the data in this state, and then this state is iterating the data using the map within this to do component. I hope that you have an understanding about the styling. I'm not gonna go in detail into that. So this to do's, so each to do is having the key to do, change to do, toggle to do, delete to do. So let's go inside, and this is where it is getting received. And here this is simple JavaScript, or you can say the TypeScript TSX. Okay, and it has if this is editing, we are going to change the button text from save to edit, and if it is not editing, we are simply showing the edit button. Okay, so I hope that you have understanding about this ternary operator, what it is doing. Input handle text change, it is updating the state. Input handle is done, this is updating the toggle, and these are the function which is actually triggering the same function which are being passed from here, and these functions are triggering the function inside the server actions. Okay, server actions like toggle to do, passing an ID and done, delete to do, edit to do. So inside the to do, These are simply updating these logic. You can go through it and understand what is happening. I'm already expecting you to understand the JavaScript and React syntax, the basic syntax of React. These to do actions, this is an add to do. It is inserting inside the to do with these values. I have passed the ID. So if I show you this schema.ts, I'm using integer. Okay, so whenever I'm using integer, it is not going to be automatically incrementing. I have to manually increment the ID when I'm going to add a new to do. This is the reason inside this to do's, whenever we are adding this create to do, we are actually creating the ID over self. Okay, and then we are passing the ID over cell. If we don't do that and we don't update it in here, it will be regenerated with the same ID one again and again. So that's why it is getting inserted inside the DB, and it is getting added in the DB. And inside this to do's, along with updating in the DB, we are setting up on the UI. That's why earlier it was showing up on the UI but not updating inside the DB, because these are two separate functions. This is where it is updating on the UI, okay, and this is where it is updating in the DB. So let's talk about that. Revalidating path, whenever there is something new happens in the UI, we want the UI to be updated automatically. So we want the home route to be updated whenever the new text is getting generated. Otherwise, we have to refresh the page in order to see the new to do. This is the delete to do. We can query this particular command, and we are checking wherever the ID is matching, then we are deleting only that particular to do, and then we are revalidating path to update the UI. Toggle to do, we are checking where the ID is matching, update the DB with the to do, and only change this particular value which is done, whichever we are passing from that UI. Okay, and then edit to do, we are updating to do and only changing the text wherever the ID is matching, and then the revalidating path. Okay, so this is the server actions, and this is the add to do functionality. You can go through it. Simple state management, handle input, handle add. This is simply updating the functions, and these are simple input and the button, simple form that you can create simply in the React or Next.js. All right, so this is it for this to do actions. Now I'm going to create a new schema, and that is going to be for the users, and I'm going to update this schema for this to do as well, to add the relationship between this, so that we may able to fetch the data of that to do which is only belonging to that users. Means a single user should be creating particular to do's, like, and whenever we fetch that to do's, only those to do's should be visible which belongs to that user who created those list of to do's. So this is going to be a great understanding for creating this schema in the Drizzle ORM. So let's create that particular schema. So above this to do schema, I'm going to create another schema, and let's call it export const users equals to pg table users and this object. And inside it, just like the to do, I can use ID and I can use integer for the ID, but for the users I want it to auto increment. So in order to auto increment, I can use serial. Okay, I could use serial for to do, but this was already added in that document, so let's go with both of these types. So ID, and then let's give it a primary key. Okay, and this has to be added. So let me add all of these. We have integer, text, boolean, pg table, and I would be needing serial, and I will be needing the timestamp as well. Okay, so this is the ID, and now I will be creating name and email as well. Let me copy that from my notes. So this is the name of type text with the name, and it will not be null, means it will be required. And then we can have the created add and updated add like this with the timestamp, and this is going to be the default. Now whenever this is going to be created or updated, it will automatically fetch the current time in order to update in the database. By the way, we can add the created add and updated add in the to do as well if you want, but for now let's go just like this. So inside the to do, what relationship we want to add? we want each to do should belong to a user ID. Okay, so in order to do that, I can have another type over here, the attribute for the to do. You can write anything over here. I have written user ID, and then this is going to take an integer for the user ID. Okay, so let's click on tab. I'm using tab 9 AI assistant extension. It is suggesting me few things but not fully correct, because seems like Drizzle ORM is new to tab 9 AI assistant. So but I'm going to remove the primary key, integer user ID, and I'm not going to use user ID. Instead I'm going to use user ID, and this particular is going to be the column name in the table in the database. Okay, so integer user ID, and after that this is not going to be null. Okay, and then I'm going to write references users.id. Okay, we have already created the users table and it is belonging to the users.id. Okay, so now this is the relationship have been made. There are few more things that I need to add over here between to-dos relation. I need to define that the to-dos have whether it is one to many, many to one, or many to many relation. So I can have export const to-dos relations, and then I can have a relation. It should be added over here. Yes, relations. Okay, and then I'm going to use the name of to-dos table, and actually this is to do. Let's try to change the name to-dos and change it to to-dos, and here I can, okay, so that is fine. I'm using to-dos over here. So after this I can use one, and let's try to use this arrow function, and then let's try to use this particular syntax, and then I can use user one, then users, comma, I need to define the fields to-dos dot user ID, then I need to use references users.id. All right, so what it is saying that one user have so this to do relation, this that one to do have only one user, means that one to do belongs to only one user. It is not possible that one to do is belonging to multiple users. So this is the relationship I have defined, and I want to define another relation, which is the users relation. So it is showing that one user can have multiple to-dos. All right, so we are done with this schema. Now let's try to use that. But before using this particular schema for to-dos and user, we need to update the migration. This is the migration inside the Drizzle, and also we need to push the updated schema in the Neon database. So I'm going to delete whatever the migration exists. So I'm going to come in the terminal and I'm going to run that same command, which was this npx drizzle kit generate. Now if I go into the Drizzle, and now it has generated this particular scripts for this to do and for the users, and also whatever the relationship I have made, it has generated this. Now this schema should be pushed into the Neon database. So I'm going to replace generate with push now, and currently it is asking me is to do table created or renamed from another table. So I'm going to rename the table and want to delete the previous table. So rename it and create this users table. So let's go over here and let's see what we have here in the Neon database. So here we have this to-dos table, done, ID, and the text. And now in the users, we have this particular thing, email ID, name, and then this updated at. All right. So Here currently it is not showing the third or the fourth this user ID, but let's see whether it shows up later on or not, the user ID for the to-dos. Okay, and also the previous functionality might not work, so I have changed the name from to-do to to-dos, so I need to update this to-do. So let's add S here, here, and wherever it is being used. So I'm going to update that so that everything keeps on working. This to do's and this to do's. And there is this error. If I hover over it, actually it is expecting the user ID as well. So let's try to add the user ID. So user ID. So error is gone, but user ID does not exist. We need to pass this user ID from the component to this server action so that whenever the to-do is getting created, it should be added with reference to the user which is logged in. Okay, currently we have not implemented authentication, which we are going to do that later on. So I'm going to add user ID number. So this has been updated over here. All right, so let's go into the to-dos, and this is showing some kind of error because we need to pass the user ID now. So let's try to add and pass the user ID from here. So I'm going to use user.id. User does not exist, and obviously we need to pass the user from the parent component. We can fetch the users from the DB directly in this component, but I'm gonna fetch that in my page.tsx. And also on the front end, we can also add the user ID over here after this done. So user ID colon user dot ID. Okay, and now this is the user which is being added over here. Now the error is gone. All right, so there is no error over here. Now let's go into the page.tsx, and inside it we need to fetch all the users. Okay, but let's pass the user ID from here without fetching the users. So users, let's pass one. Okay, for now we don't have the server actions for that. So let's first update the type. So here, this is also expecting user ID now of type number. Okay, so let's close this, and I'm gonna create another file inside it. This is going to be for the user actions.ts, and this is going to contain all the operations for the user. And let's first import all the stuff which is also being imported inside this to-dos action at the top. And here, first of all, I'm going to get all the users so that we can pass the user in the to-dos functions, to-dos components, to fetch the to-dos which are belonging to that user. Okay, so this is giving us this particular error. So what is the error? So Drizzle has no exported member Drizzle at Drizzle. Okay, so here we can actually add it like this. Okay, so this is going to return us all the users. Now I'm going to create another action. This is going to create a new user in the database, because for fetching the to-dos belonging to a particular user, the user data should be added in the database as well, just for learning purpose. Or for now, later on I will be implementing it with the real authentication. This is just to create a new user in the database. So I can have get user, or you can say add user, equals to async and await db dot insert users dot values, and then inside it I can pass the name user1 and the email. Let's add that. So umair@gmail.com, any email, and then after that I need to revalidate path with the home key. Okay, so this is going to create a new user in the database. All right, I'll come back to this file again when I will need to add another action for fetching the user along with all of its to-dos which belongs to this particular user. This returns all the user, this creates the user. I want to fetch only one user which is going to be containing all the to-dos, and I'm going to pass an ID that this user I want to fetch along with the IDs. Okay, so let's go over here in the page.tsx, and I'm going to fetch all the users inside it first of all. Okay, and this needs to be added from the actions, and I'm going to first of all log all the users to verify that, and then I'm going to, while fetching this particular data, I need to pass the users 0.id. Okay, so this is going to give us the data of the to-dos which belongs to a particular ID. So currently this is not supported, which needs to be supported yet, but first of all I'm also needs to go to the to-do actions. This is the get data, and I'm going to update this with the ID of type number, and so let's change it to user ID. And the query that I have already added over here, I can actually change this query to this one. So this is actually selecting all the to-dos, where to-dos.user ID equal to user ID, which is being passed to this get data. Okay, so let's close this for now, and now the error is gone. Now the real users which is being stored in the database is being fetched, and the first user which is being created in the database, not the logged in user as of now, is being passed to this ID. Now the data, all the to-dos belonging to this user will be fetched, and this data is being passed to here. And in the page.tsx, rather than passing 1, I can pass users 0. Okay, and this is where it is going to be used. So user.id, we are separately fetching the ID from the users object which is being passed from page.tsx. So what I want to do, first of all, whenever I want to create a new to do, I don't want to fetch all the to dos, but first of all I want to create a new user. So in order to do that, I can simply comment out this thing, and I'm going to create a new user. So for creating that, I'm going to, what is that, this one, add user. Actually we don't need to pass anything, so add user from the actions, and we are simply going to call this, and hopefully this user is going to get generated in the database. So many things don't get confused because these were changes and configuration that we had to do. So npm run dev, I hope that there won't be any error. So let's see, let's refresh. So there is this error. So the array is empty, that's why it is not able to fetch that ID. So what we can do is, rather than passing this data, I'm just going to comment this out. I'm simply going to pass this array. All right, so there won't be any error. Let's refresh, there is no error. So let's add that, click on that. And if I click on that, this is being shown over here, user one with the created at, because we are logging in the users. And in this console, neon console, I want to see if the user is created over here. Yes, the user is created with all the details that we have over here. And now if we are trying to get the data of that user ID does not exist on to do's action. Let's see. So it is giving an error which I was expecting. Actually in to-dos table, this particular column does not exist. And obviously if I go over here, you can see that this is not existing. So I'm going to go and I'm going to regenerate that because I've updated this user ID in my TypeScript file as well. So I'm going to delete this Drizzle folder completely. And now I'm going to first of all npx git generate, and now I'm going to push it, and it maybe ask few question, changes applied, and let's see what we have here. If I refresh this and go to the to-dos, and now we have this user ID now, and there won't be any data inside it for the users. There is a user, all right, because with the same name it only updated this user ID after I updated this data type actually. Okay, so now let me run the project and let's see what happens. And this is where we are running the project, and let's refresh the page. Yes, and let's try to all right, the app is running, and now we have this particular user in page.tsx, and now we are passing the data. Let me see if there is any data exists. So data, this one, let's save it, and now there is user exist, but there is an empty data for that to do's because no to do exists for this particular user. So I'm gonna go, I just created the user over here just for referencing the to do's. I'm going to delete this line. In fact, let's comment this line and let's uncomment this. Now it is going to fetch the to-dos from here, which are belonging to a particular user. Okay, so now let's refresh, and now there is no to-do belonging to that user, but I'm going to go and let's add first to-do add, and this has been added, there is no error, and I'm going to refresh this database. Let's click on to do, and new to do have been added along with user ID. And if I go to the users, this is the ID of that user one, and we actually intentionally fetch the first user to be used as a reference for that to do. Later on when I will integrate the Clerk Authentication, that will be actual user ID which is logged in, who can create the new to-dos which will be stored in the database. So currently to do is belonging to the user ID equals to 1. All right, so this is where it is being fetched, and if I refresh this, let's see, and now after refreshing, this is again visible for that user ID which I have used. So inside this particular user actions actually, yeah, and inside this I can create another query. So export const get user. I just want to show you how the queries work here. So inside it, if I pass the user ID of type number, and now I can fetch a single user along with all the to-dos belonging to that user. Okay, in that case, to-dos action, we are fetching the to-dos which are belonging to this user ID. But if we have a user, we want to perform the query on users schema model to fetch all the users along with the to-dos it has. This is the reason we created this, that one user can have multiple to-dos. Okay, so here we can use the db and then the query, then users dot find many, and then I can use where users equals to, use the arrow function, eq users.id user ID. Okay, and after that we can pass this with that what are the properties we want to fetch from here. So to do's equals to true, So there seems an error. So this format of querying is not working. Actually, I want both of the queries to work. So what I need to do is I need to modify drizzle.ts. So here, rather than actually separately exporting the DB, let me export it like this. So export const db equals to drizzle SQL and then schema. Okay, and the schema needs to be added from that schema like this. All right, so let's save it and let's close it, and you can see that we are able to fetch the users now, but for here we need to bring it back. Earlier I removed that because I forgot that I will be needing to use this particular query. You can see that both of the queries are working, this one and this one. So let's save it, and also over here it is also throwing an error, so let's use these curly braces now. All right, so this is working perfectly fine. We can test that out. So here after this we can simply return user from here, and this is going to return the user. Now in order to test this out, let's go into the page.tsx, and for testing purpose we can simply, let's remove this data, and we can get the user by passing the user ID just for testing purpose, and let's log that out. We need to fetch the get user from the users action, and let's log the users. Let's try to run the application now. It is still showing the error. Let me reload the window so that all the errors are gone. Okay, so npm run dev. So this needs to work now. So let's try to refresh this, and yeah, so this is being fetched from that DB. But if I come over here and if I hover, I'm using console ninja, by the way. This is showing all the outputs of console logs directly in my VS code. So if I hover over it, you will see that it is giving me all the users, one user with the ID, and all the to-dos inside it. How cool is that? All the to-dos which belongs to this user. And let me add the second to-do, add, and it has been refreshed. And if I hover over it, it is showing this particular second to do which is belonging to this user. All right, so this is a quite awesome query that we can use over here. And at the top you can see that there are two users, and for the first query when we used get all users, it is not showing the to-dos over here because we are not appending the to-dos in this particular query in this user action. Okay, so our setup is complete for the relational database. We have tested out all of our queries. Now we need to go ahead and integrate the Clerk Authentication. This is going to be a real application. I won't be using and generating these fake users just for testing that out, but for setting that up in our application I had to do that. So it's time to go to the Clerk Authentication. Alright, so what you need to do is to open up the clerk.com on your browser, and after that you need to create a new account, sign up with your email ID, and once you are signed up you will see the sign out button and the dashboard button at the top. So I'm gonna click on the dashboard and create a new application on my Clerk dashboard. I will already be having many other applications as well, but if you are new to Clerk you will have an empty page on the dashboard where you can click on the create application. So I'm going to click on the dashboard button, and I'm going to, you can first of all create a new organization. I've already created it with the name personal account, but you can go ahead and create a new organization. But within the same organization, I can create a new application by going over here. You might have different UI if you are new to Clerk. So you just need to create a new application by clicking over here. Okay, so now I'm going to select that which email providers I want to enable the options. I'm going to go with the sign up with email and the Google, and you can enable all of these social providers as well if you want. Okay, so let's go and create a new application. I can name the application. So let's give it Drizzle Neon clerk next 14. So let's name it like this, and I'm gonna click on create application. So it's going to create that, and after that it's going to give us few information that we need to do. So first of all, we need to install this package in our project. So this is the project. I'm going to install this package. So let's get back and let's enable this, and let's copy this env.local. So I'm gonna go inside this .env file, and here I'm going to be pasting this information. So currently you can see that it has this information only. So let's add it right below the publishable key and the secret key for the clerk. Let's go over here, and now I'm using app router. If you are using the old version of Next.js, you can go with that. And one thing more, when we are new to the clerk, when we create a new organization, it will ask you to select the technology. And for this particular organization, I've already selected the Next.js. That's why it is suggesting me different things for the next, and that's why it is already selected Next.js. Maybe its user interface is changed, but you can go ahead and choose your specific technologies. We are gonna go with the Next.js. So here on the layout file, we are going to wrap everything with the clerk provider. So I'm gonna go and I'm going to open up the layout, and in this layout file, I'm going to wrap the whole HTML with this clerk provider. Okay, and we also need to import this from clerk Next.js. Make sure you have successfully installed that particular package. So now I'm gonna click on continue to the Next.js guide, and here I'm gonna be creating these two routes for the sign in and the sign up. These are recommended. So I'm first gonna create the sign up. I'm simply going to copy this particular path without page.tsx, and I'm going to create this folders path within the app directory. So let's copy that. So in our project, right click to the app directory, new folder, paste it over here, and inside this particular folder, I'm going to be creating page.tsx. And just like this, I'm simply going to copy this for the sign in route. Let's copy this, new folder, add, and inside it I'm simply going to add page.tsx, and inside it we can copy this sign up path with the sign up, sign in path with this sign in. Okay, so I'm not going to be using this particular syntax. Instead, I'm going to add some tailwind css styles so it becomes at the center of the page. So for the sign in, I'm simply going to add it over here. So it is just like this particular thing, but I've just added this tailwind css styles. This is the only difference. And for this sign up page, I can add this one. It is same as this one, and I have simply added the tailwind css by adding this div tag around this sign up package provided by clerk Next.js. All right, so what's next? Now we need to add these two URLs in our env file. So let's copy these two paths and paste it over here. And next, let's try to run the project and see what happens. So here in the terminal, I'm simply going to write npm run dev and open up the localhost colon 3000. So let's go over here. Let's refresh this page and see what happens. It might throw some error. Yes, there is an error over here on page.tsx. The reason is that I can go to this page.tsx. I can simply ignore and comment all of these lines. For now, I'll come back to this. So now you can see that it is showing empty page because this page.tsx contains nothing, not even the child components. So here I can manually go to the sign in and hit enter, and now you will see that it will show this particular awesome login page at the center of the page, and this is what we have configured. We don't need to create this complex form. It is automatically given by the clerk, and we can click on this sign up and it will give us this option to create our new account. And when we will be creating a new account, this account will be added in our clerk dashboard. We can go to this users, and the new user will be added over here, which we will be testing shortly. So now I want to protect my home route. You can see that if I try to navigate to the home route without logging in, I can still able to navigate to the home route because I will be showing all the notes, all the user specific to-dos on the home route, and I don't want that users to create the new notes without logging in. So if I go to this documentation, and here we can see that read users and session data. Let's click on that, and here I can go to these examples and it should be showing the middleware file. So let's go over here and quickly create a middleware file. I'm just going to show you. So middleware.ts, this file is specific to Next.js. This is not related to this Clerk authentication. So this middleware file actually run before triggering any route, so we can perform any operation. So before triggering any route, we can check if the user is logged in or not, and according to that we can protect the route or revert that user to some other route. Okay, so if user is not logged in, I'm going to check on the home route. Then if not logged in, I'm going to navigate user to the sign in page, so that first user need to sign in, then they will be able to create new to-dos. So in this middleware file, first of all, what Clerk provide is Clerk middleware from Clerk next server, and then I need to create route matcher. Okay, this is the new version. If you are using the older version of Clerk, then this syntax is different. Earlier there were some public routes paths, but currently they have replaced it with the Clerk middleware. Okay, so here I can go const is protected route. This is the variable name I've just created, and now I'm going to create route matcher, and here I can add an array and put all the routes which I want to protect inside it. Okay, and after that I can write export default Clerk middleware auth, and then the request. Let's add an arrow function, and inside it I can check if is protected route. Let's add a request inside it, and after this, if this is true, I can use auth.protect. All right, and finally I need to export the configuration, and this is what I've got from the Clerk documentation. Let me find that out. So if I go over here, Clerk middleware, yes, you can see that I can click on Clerk middleware, and there is an auth middleware as well. So it is saying that this method is now deprecated, please use Clerk middleware, and this is what I told you before. And here this is what I got it from. This is the matcher, and this is what I have put it over here, and it is giving us all the details how we can protect our routes based upon the permissions, or we can simply protect the routes. Now after adding this middleware.ts file, I can go to this file, this route, and reload this page. You will see that it will be automatically navigated to the sign in page. If I try to navigate to this home route again, it will not let me in, and we are successfully able to protect our home route. Now next thing, I want to add a navbar at the top with the sign in sign up button. After sign in, I should be able to show that a profile icon and also the sign out button. So let's go inside the component, and I'm going to create navbar.tsx, and this is simple tsx, and I assume that you all are already aware of how we can create different TypeScript files and create React components. Okay, so use client, I want to use some hooks inside it, hooks provided by Clerk. That's why I'm making it use client. As you know that in Next.js we are not allowed to write hooks without making it client component. So first of all, I need to import few things. I'm going to add those things over here. So from Clerk Next.js, it is importing sign out button, user button, Clerk, use Clerk, and use user link. I will be able to click on any button from here. And now let's use our AFCE extension, and it is going to create this navbar component. Okay, so here inside this I'm going to be adding a nav. So nav class name, and then I will be adding border B. Let's add a height 8 VH, and let's add a flex and items center. Okay, so this is the nav. Let's save it. It is not rendering this. Let me see. All right, so like this. Now for this particular div, I'm going to be adding another class, and here inside this class I can add a container, and then I'll be adding flex items center, and then justify between for the logo and for the sign in sign up buttons. So this is not di, this is div actually. So now I can add a link href for while clicking on the logo. I want to navigate to the home route. H1, let's add the class name, font bold, and then text 3XL. Okay, and you can add an image over here as well. So let's go to the layout file, and inside this we can simply add it over here. I hope that you understand how the layout works. So this is the children. It will show all the child routes and the content inside those routes. So inside this body I can add a div, and inside this div I can add the navbar which I've just created. So let's cut this children, and I'm going to put it under this navbar, and let's add the class name over here. So max width 6XL, MX auto to bring everything at the center, and let's add the height 100 VH. Okay, so let's go over here, and you can see that it is showing this awesome logo over here, and it is looking good, and it is showing, it will show on the home route as well as all the child routes because we have added it in the layout file. Okay, so now let's go to this navbar again, and let me verify. So I have to added this square brackets, and now it is looking good. There were no space because I missed this square bracket from here. Okay, so now below this div I need to add another div. Okay, so this is going to be a class name, flex items center, and gap x5. Okay, so inside this I need to show the sign in and sign up buttons. So let's add a div quickly so we can save our time. So now you can see that I've added this div. This has the flex item center gap x5, and now we have this particular link. It has this href. Clicking on this sign in button will be navigated to the sign in page, which I've already created. This is the sign in route, and clicking on this link will be navigated to this sign up, and you can go through these tailwind css styles. So let's go over here, and now you can see that I have this sign in sign up page, and if I click on the sign up, I will be able to navigate to the sign up, click back to the sign in. If I click on logo, it will not let me in because the route of home is protected because I'm not logged in. Okay, so one more thing in here I would like to add inside the navbar, const is signed in, and then the user, and this is going to be from use user. This is provided by Clerk, and then we can have the sign out equals to use Clerk. Okay, we can use these variables to check if the user is signed in or not. We can trigger this to enable the sign out for the user. We can use this user to fetch the information of that user. Okay, so now inside this particular div I can actually check if is signed in. If user is signed in, otherwise we can put everything in this parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to just copy everything from here and put it all here. All right, and inside this, I can simply add it like this. So if user is signed in, I want to add a button with a sign out button inside. So let's add over here. So if user is signed in, I'm going to trigger this particular TSX. If user is not signed in, I'm already seeing this sign in sign up button. So this is going to show the sign out button because I'm not signed in currently. That's why it is not showing up. And after this button, we want to show that profile icon, and that profile icon is given by the user button. Everything else will be provided by Clerk. Okay, so let's try to see what happens. Here we have this. Now click on the sign in, and I'm going to sign in with continue with Google. Alright, so I'm logged in, and you can see that it is automatically navigated to this home route, and I can see this sign out button and this profile icon with the manage account and with this sign out button. Okay, let's click on the sign out, and it will redirect me to the sign in page, and when it will redirect to me to the home page, it will be checked that we are protected and I'm not logged in, and it will be automatically navigated to the sign in route. So we have created Navbar, we have configured the Clerk authentication. Let me see what else we can do with the Clerk, and after that I'm going to show you how we can link Clerk user with this neon database user, because I want to add a relationship between user and then the nodes, so that only those nodes should be visible which belongs to a particular user which is logged in using Clerk authentication. So I'm going to modify this schema for this particular user in order to make a link between the Clerk authenticated user with this to do. Okay, so here we have this name and email exists over here. So now I'm going to come and I'm going to add one more property, which is the Clerk ID, and this is going to be the Clerk ID not null. And then let's add the first name as well. So first name, this is going to be the text first name not null. Then I'm going to add the last name, and this is going to be the text last name. I'm going to remove these things which is automatically added by AI Assistant extension, which I'm using tab 9 AI Assistant. And one more thing I would like to add is the photo. So I want to store the photo URL of my Clerk user in my Neon database. So all of this information from the Clerk, the name, email, Clerk ID, first name, last name will be stored in my Neon database through this Drizzle ORM schema which I'm just creating. Okay, and now we have this photo not null. So that's it. We needed to update this. And one more thing I wanted to do, this is an integer, I want to change it into big int. Actually this is big int. Let's try to import this from the other data types like Drizzle ORM PG core. So this is where it is imported, big init. All right, so let's save it. It's still showing some kind of error. Let's try to refresh and reload this VS Code window, and I hope this error is gone. Yes, this is on. Actually, after this ID, what we need to do, we need to add a mod over here. Okay, so mod number. Now the error should be gone. All right, so now in my terminal, I want to push and generate it in my schema in my Neon database, which I've already been showing you. First of all, I'm simply going to be deleting this Drizzle folder. It will be regenerated when I will be running npx drizzle kit generate, hit enter, and this has been generated again. If I show you this, you can see that this has been updated over here. Now I'm simply going to push it, and it will be pushed to my Neon database, because this is what I've already configured over here in my env file. No changes detected in my case because I've already tried pushing it with updating schema before recording this part of the video, and it is already pushed in my Neon database. But in your case, it might give you some questions that you want to remove all the data from the database. It might update and create a new user schema in Neon database, you just need to say yes and it will be updated. Now let's go over here, let's refresh, and this is what I wanted to show you to do. Done id which was already added, and this is the user, and these are the new properties are updated. So there is another thing I wanted to show you, that from this Neon database we are not able to delete any record. If I go to the to do, if any record is showing over here, we cannot delete that. But Drizzle provide, just like Prisma ORM, Drizzle provide a studio as well. So npx Drizzle git studio, you just need to write this command and it is going to give you this URL which I can click on, and it will take you to this route. I need to update that, but for now I can simply open Drizzle Studio. So now you can see that it is opening up a studio which is my local setup, local project, and when it will be showing different records, I can perform any kind of filtering, I can delete those records, and it will be automatically updated in Neon database as well. So this is the benefit of this studio, that this is synced automatically with the Neon console. All right, so we can keep on running this studio, or let's stop it. We can later on update that. So we have updated our schema. Now it's time to go ahead and create our user which will be logged in over here, and when this is going to be logged in or signed up in my browser, and it will be added in our dashboard as well over here. And once it will be added over here, I want this user details to be stored in my Neon database as well. And this is a bit longer concept. There is a one shorter way, that when user is logged in over here, I can simply get the user ID from the clerk and then pass that clerk user ID to create new to-dos. This is a good way, but this is not a professional way to do that. We want to store the whole data of the user from the clerk into the Neon database. This is more professional way of doing that. So even we are spending more time, then we have to go with the professional way of doing things. So now I'm gonna go to this dashboard for your project in our Clerk, and I'm going to click on this webhooks. Okay, and webhooks means that we can trigger different kind of actions, like when user is created in Clerk dashboard, when user was deleted, when user was updated, then we trigger an API. An API is responsible to connect with the database we have locally over here, and then this database connection will be responsible to store the user's data in our Neon database. This is what I'm gonna be doing now. So I can click on add endpoint. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to show you, that this webhook does not work on local host. We either want to use the ngrok or local tunnel, but to make it professional, to make it more production ready, I would like to deploy my app on vercel, so that we can have this deployed version, and then we will be adding that API URL of the deployed version in our webhook form over here. So first of all, I'm going to open up this GitHub and I'm going to create a new repo. Let's go remind me later. And I'm going to be creating a new repo. Here I can go Drizzle, Next 14, Neon, Clerk, whatever the name you want to add over here. Let's keep it public. Don't select anything. Create repository. Let's come over here. Make sure you have this env file added in your gitignore as well, for security reasons. .env. It should not be pushed to the GitHub repo. We will be manually adding all of these details in our vercel for it to be worked. So now git status, git add, and let's go and let's try to commit all of these changes. Yes, and let's try to copy all of these 3 commands at once, and I'm going to add it over here and it will be pushed. So let's refresh this page and it should be visible. All of the code is visible over here. This is cool. Now I'm gonna go open up the vercel.com, And here I'm already linked with my GitHub account. If you are new to it, you can link your GitHub account with the vercel. So I can go and add new project over here, and it will show all the recent repositories from my GitHub account. So you can see that. So I was testing this app in a repo. This is the old. So this is the just now. You can see that this is imported just now. So I can click on import, and let's go over here. Let's copy all of these env variables, and let's click on environment variable, click over here, paste all of these, so it will be automatically adjusted with the key value pairs. And now let's click on deploy, and hopefully it will be deployed without any error. All right, so there is an error. Let's see what is the error over here. So it is showing there is an error in this particular file. All right, so let's go over here. So I forgot to do npm run build. So whenever you want to deploy, what you need to do is just run npm run build, and if there is any such error might be occurring on the vercel, it will be shown on your own terminal beforehand. So npm run build, and it will show me all of these issues during the build process. So meanwhile, it will show that particular issue locally as well. I'm gonna go into the user actions, and you can see that in the terminal it is showing the same error. So this is a good way to verify some issues that might be occurring before deploying it into the vercel. So here it is showing that this users does not only contain name and email, it contains other values as well. So since I will be creating a new user, and I'll be passing the user object from here, so I will be updating that. Let's do that. So let's pass this user, which is not being passed as of now, and then db.insert users.values, and let's try to add these over here from the user object. All right, and also this, we don't need this thing. All right, so now the error is gone. Let's try to build npm run build and see if there is any error. If there is no error, I can push the changes again, and if there is no error over here, there will be no error over here as well. So there is no as such any error. All of these things are passed. So let's try to git add, git commit, fix error, and then git push origin main. Okay, so this has been pushed to a GitHub repo, and the benefit of vercel is that it will be automatically detecting the new changes coming in the GitHub repo, and it will be start redeploying the app. So I can go to this particular back, go to the projects, go to this one, Drizzle Next 14. This is the new one, yeah, and go to the deployments. And now you can see that the build process have been launched automatically just now. Okay, just now is referring to my GitHub repo. Okay, so it is building. Let's wait for it. If there is any error, let's go inside it, and we can also keep checking the logs as well, how these things is going. Okay, it takes few minutes. Okay, so linting, checking validity. So meanwhile it is getting deployed. Let's come back, and I'm going to set up a webhook. So inside my env, I'm going to add a new variable over here, and this is going to be webhook underscore secret equals to, and the value is going to be provided by Clerk, which I yet need to create. So let's go over here. So you can see that this is ready, and this has been deployed without any error. Okay, so let's try to refresh this page. I want to copy this URL, so let's click on that, not the second one, the shorter one. Okay, so this is where our app is deployed and it is working fine, and I want to actually copy this URL before sign in actually. Okay, so let's go to the dashboard, and here I would like to add this endpoint inside the webhook, and after that I want to add some URL, some API URL, which will be triggered when the new user is going to get created. So you can see that based upon, so these are all the events provided by Clerk, and all of these webhook events are provided by other platforms as well, like Stripe or other platforms. So I want to enable user created only. Okay, I don't want to enable any other thing. And above this, when the new user is created, which API I want to be called. So this is going to be API slash webhooks slash clerk. This is the API which I will be creating in my Next.js project. If you don't know how to create APIs, I have created a separate video on creating the REST APIs in Next.js. You can check out my channel. So this has been added. Now I'm going to click on create, and this is the signing secret which it has provided over here. Let's make it visible. Let's copy the signing secret. Let's put it over here. So this will be a local because we are not going to test it locally. So I'm going to go to this vercel, and let's click on the project. Let's click on the settings. Let's click on environment variables, and let's copy this whole line actually. And inside this env, I can actually add a new env over here, this one. Okay, and let's click on the save. So you can see that webhook secret have been added with the correct webhook secret which we have added. And once we update the env variables, it will not be updated. We have to redeploy that. So click on deploy and click on this three dots, redeploy, click on redeploy, and it will be redeployed with the env variables which have been added just now. So it is building. Meanwhile, we can go to the app, and I can create that API which I want to be triggered by that webhook. So I'm going to go and create a new folder, and inside it I can add API slash webhooks slash clerk. This is the API URL which I've added over here in my dashboard. It should be as it is. Okay, so now let's create a new file, route.ts. Okay, so inside it there is a awesome article, sync clerk data to your application with webhooks. I'm going to give the link of this URL in the description of this video. You can check this out yourself as well. So first of all, you can see that this is what we have already added, and this is what we have already added as well. And now first of all, we need to install this particular package, npm install swix. And let's go down, and this is the app router API. So this is the code which I need to copy. So let's copy everything which is provided by here, and you can see that API slash webhooks, but we have slightly different path. So inside it, I'm simply going to add it over here, and this is the process.env, the same variable I've created in my env. If you have created some different variable name, you need to update this over here. So you can go through it. It is simply checking which event got triggered and which is not triggered. So I'm gonna come over here, and this is the event type. Event type is going to let me know that whether user was created, whether user was updated. So what was the event actually triggered. So I can add an if, and then I can write event type equals to user dot created. All right, and now from this event type, actually the event data, I can get the ID, email address, image URL, first name, last name, username, and different properties which I have added in my schema. So I'm going to add a line of code inside this if. So from EVT data, I have fetched ID, and ID is basically the clerk ID which I have added in the schema. Okay, and now I'm going to be building an object over here. Okay, so this particular object contains this ID, clerk ID, and this is the email, name, first name, last name, and photo, and the ID for that Drizzle neon ORM will be automatically generated. This ID and these two props is not being added over here. Okay, so there seems some kind of error. So actually I just need to cut it from here and put it inside that if condition. All right, so inside this if condition, now I can actually await add user, and I'm going to pass the user over here. This add user is something which I just updated in my actions. So let's go to the user actions, and this is what I have added over here. Okay, and I think there is something which we can add over here. I can add uh, this is as well, so returning clerk id. So this I think this is going to return some data wherever it is being called. So let's verify that. Route.ts await user id, and after that we can actually return some response. So return next response from next server dot json, and then the message colon new user created, and then the user. All right, so I hope that when we will be logged in with the Clerk authentication, along with creating the user entry in our Clerk dashboard, the webhook is going to trigger this API, and this API is going to call this particular action, user action, and this user action is already configured with the Neon database connection, and it is going to insert this inside this particular schema with this data which is being passed, and then this is going to return this. So I hope that it is going to work, but before that, for it to work, we can redeploy it on vercel. So let's go over here. It is still building. So now I'm going to write git status. Yes, this is something which I have updated, and now I can add git add, and then git commit, and then git push to main. And let's see, we have this one. Let's refresh this page. It should be building again. It is ready. Let's go to this project, and let's go over here. Yes, it is rebuilding just now because we have just pushed our code. Now once the build is complete, I'm gonna go to this URL, and I'm going to log in with my Google account, or I can sign up with my own email ID without using any social provider. And we can enable other social providers as well. You can see on the Clerk dashboard, I've already explained you. So I'm just waiting for this to be completing building, and then I will be showing that. So before that, let's go over here in the users, and these users have been created because I tried logging in with this particular email ID. Let's try to delete that, and I will be using this same email ID to create the new user. So let's see, it's still building and this is ready, and let's try to refresh this page. And our home route is protected, so it will be navigated to the sign in. Yes, this has been done. We can navigate to these routes, so our deployment is successful. So now let's click on continue with Google and log in with Gmail. Continue, and it should take me to the home route actually. So sign in callback. Yes, the home route, it contains nothing, and we are successfully logged in. Let's go over here. Let's refresh this page, and it should be having this email ID. Yes, I've just updated that. And now, before going to the Neon database, let's go into the vercel. Let's go over here. Let's go inside this thing, and let's go into the logs and see if there is any error. So neondb error, null value in column name for relation users violates not null value. So there seems an error, API webhooks status 500. So let's come over here, webhooks clerk route.ts, and here it should be triggered. Let's see what is the error. So internal server error, what is this? Null value in column name of a relation users violates non-null constraint. So error occurring because of this, and the webhook is triggering properly, because if there is an issue with the webhook URL, this error would not be shown up. So the username is getting null, and we have added the schema that the name is not null. Okay, so it means that in the route this username is not being fetched. So I think if we go to here, and I'm gonna go to the user email password, and I should enable this username from here and click on save. Now when I will be trying to log in with any email ID, it will ask me to create a username as well. So I'm gonna go to the user, and for this particular user I'm simply going to delete that. And let's go to our app, and let's refresh this. Let's try to, okay, this one, let's try to refresh this page. And now I'm gonna click on continue, and now it should ask me to write a username as well. So now you can see that fill in missing field. So let's add a username and click on the continue, and I hope that it will not throw any error now. So I'm logged in, and it should be added over here, and I'm going to verify it from vercel as well. So this is added. Let's go over here, and let's click on show new logs. All right, so API webhook was triggered, and with the 200 code, and this one is triggered as well. Let's go to the Neon database. Let's refresh this page now, and I'm gonna click on todos. It contains nothing. Let's go to the user. All right, so now you can see that this name, email, updated clerk ID, this is the ID of the clerk, clerk first name, clerk last name, and clerk photo URL. So we have successfully synced our clerk user with our Neon database. Now whenever we are logged in over here in our application, we can actually add a relationship between todos and then between this particular user, because both todos and user exist in the Neon database. Now it's time to modify our todos actions a bit, and these components for these todos in order to perform all of these CRUD operations for todos. All right, so let's go into the users actions, and here we have this get all users action, which is fine. I'm gonna leave it as it is. And then we have this get user for getting a single user with a user ID. And rather than adding the ID, I'm going to change it to the clerk ID, because this is what I'll be referring. So this is not actually matching with the user ID. So I'm going to change number. This is a type of text, and this is the number. So for now I'm going to change it to any, and you can see that the error is gone. Okay, so now I'm gonna go and go to this to-dos, and this is where we are creating a new to-do. Since I updated this schema with this big int, so I'm not going to use the same logic that I have written before for creating an ID. Instead, I'm going to be using the date for creating a new ID. This is going to be a long integer decimals. Okay, so let's come over here, and const ID equals to new date dot get time. This is going to generate a long integer. After that, we have this ID text user.id previous ID, and I hope that this should work as it is. It should work fine. Okay, and next thing, let me run the project. Localhost, let's refresh this, and let's see where it goes. So this is where it is showing. I'm not able to navigate to that. So let's go and open up this page.tsx. It is empty as of now. So I'm gonna fetch the user details which is logged in currently, which is the clerk. And when the user gets created, we know that it gets generated in the Neon database as well. So then we are going to get the user from the Neon database, because that will be having the ID for that user and the to do as well. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's remove all of these, and let's get the user any equals to await, and let's add the current user from the next, and then let's check if user is logged in or not. If not, I'm simply going to return. I'm not going to proceed further, although I've already protected, but this is a good protection as well. So now I can add a new variable, fetched data await, and then the get user, and I can pass the user.id. Okay, and this is the ID which I am get user is this one. Okay. So after that, I can actually to verify, I can log this out as well. Let's uncomment this, and rather than adding the data, let's add the fetched data 0 dot to dos. So this is going to pass all the to dos belonging to this particular user, because this is the relationship we have built in our schema. And we have also enabled this with to do, so it's going to return all the to dos belonging to this user. And here for the current user, I'm going to add fetched user 0. So this is an array with only one object, so we are simply passing one object. So now let's refresh this page. Let's try to log in with Google with the same email ID for which I created the username. So now you can see that there is no error and I'm logged in, and the URL for the home route is no more protected because I'm logged in. And let's see Neon console. Instead, let's try to run this one, npx drizzle kit studio space studio, and this is where I can actually delete the records as well. So let's go, this one is the studio. Let's refresh, and this should show the user as well, and there is no to do. So currently you can see that the ID of this user is 20, and this is the clerk ID. And let's go and create a new to do. So first to do, I hope there won't be any error. Let's add that. It has been added. All right, let's refresh this, and it has been fetched from DB as well for this particular user. Now I'm gonna go to this studio. Let's refresh, and for this user, let's click on to dos, and this to do have been added with this user data as well because of the relationship. And then we have this ID belonging to this particular to do, and this is the user ID that this to do belongs to this user ID. Okay, let's try to add more to dos. So second to do, and then third to do. All right, so it must be added in our database. Let's see tables, click on to dos, and these are 3 to dos belonging to this user ID have been added. Awesome. Now I want to verify if I try to log in with another user whether these details for to dos shows up over there or not. So let's sign out, and I'm navigated to the sign in page. Let's try to log in with another email ID. So it is asking me to write a username again for this new email ID. Okay, so it has thrown some errors. Can't read properties of undefined, fetched data 0 to dos. So let's see whether we have to dos or not. So actually the data is being printed, but if I go over here, I actually refresh this page and there is no error. Actually, because of the performance, there caused an error when this particular thing is not exists. So the thing is that what we can do is we can simply add fetched data and we can add this condition to avoid any kind of error. And now if I refresh this page, now this fetched data is going to be, and also we can check if fetched data to dos exists or not by writing another condition, or we can add this condition before this to dos as well. Okay, so let's go, and currently you can see that this particular new user does not have any to do over here because this user does not contain any to do. So let's add new user to do, and this to do is going to be added for this user. Now let's go to the Neon console and see how many to dos are here. So you can see that there are 4 to dos and 3 belonging to user ID 20, 1 belonging to 21, because this particular user is just being logged in. So guys, I have pretty much covered each and every concept to use Next.js 14 along with Drizzle ORM, Neon console database, along with the Clerk authentication, and how to with these technologies actually communicate with each other to pass the data, to call the database, to fetch the data, and to create an awesome simple to do application. So you can use these concepts, you can use these ideas to build your larger applications as well. Thank you so much for watching guys. If you have any question, you can comment below. I'll be creating more videos on Next.js 14 and using these awesome technologies. Do subscribe my channel and like my video as well. Thank you so much for watching again. See you in the next video.